first step, we'll be wrapping a few wraps of some lead wire up and around the hook shank to give our nymph some extra weight to get down through some of that quicker water. We're just going to wrap that forward and pinch off any excess here so we're not ruining our good scissors. And we're just going to take that and snug it up front into that spot in the bead head. Alright, now we're going to start our thread onto the hook. So we're going to get that going, wrap over that tag end, give that a quick trim. I'm using a 6/0 uni thread in the black color. You can get away with browns or tans and things like that, but this will do quite well for us. So we're going to start by building up a section right behind that lead that we wrapped on first. And we're going to eventually kind of create a taper behind that so that when we build up the body of our nymph here, it's going to have a nice taper and a good transition to it so it's not all jagged and angular. It'll be a nice smooth tapered body, which is what we're looking to achieve with this. Alright. Alright, for the tail of our Prince Nymph we're going to be using some brown Goose Biots. To find out how long they need to be, we're going to place them up against our hook, and we're looking for about half a hook shank's length. Now that we've got that figured out, we're going to bring them to the back here, cross them slightly so that we get that split tail with the tips pointing down. And I'm going to tie them in with the biots facing towards me just a little bit so that when I wrap my thread forward, it will bring them straight into the top. Get that going. And then wrap it around. You can see there we've got two nice split tails with the tips facing down. So we're going to kind of tighten those guys up a little bit and clip off the excess that we've got. And then just kind of clean that up a little bit. After our tail is in place, we're going to tie in a piece of medium gold ultra wire. Medium just in this particular size. If you go smaller, you might want to step down to the smaller brassy sizes. But we're going to get that started and leave that on the spool because we're going to come back to that just in a second here after our next step. Now we're going to begin filling the body in with some Peacock Herl. We're going to take about 5 or 6 strands and clip the tips of them so that they're even, and then bring those to the back, advance our thread forward here, and right behind the bead we're going to tie all of those in. So we're going to bring those down and then just keep wrapping our thread here over the Peacock Herl and all the way to the back right where we stopped with the Goose Biots. And we're going to take these clumps in the front and trim those off. A good thing to do with this step is to take just a little bit of a glue like Zap-A-Gap and lay some just across that top part so that it saturates into our base layer of thread and our Peacock Herl. That way it keeps everything from rotating on our hook shank. Now that we've got our Peacock Herl tied in and our glue laid down, we're going to begin wrapping our Peacock Herl forward. I've placed the tips of the Peacock Herl into a pair of hackle pliers to make our job a little bit easier. So now as we start wrapping forward here, we're going to begin at a slight angle as we wrap forwards, as you can see, eventually switching to a perpendicular straight over the top sort of a wrap. Once we reach the front right behind our bead, we're just going to finish by tying that off with our thread. And then trimming our excess. After we do this, we're going to go back to our gold wire and follow the Peacock Herl by wrapping this forward over it. Gives a little bit more flash, helps seal the herl down, and a little bit more in the weight department. And again, once we get to the front, just tie that off. For the collar on our Prince Nymph, we're going to be using some hen saddle feathers in a brown or a brownish sort of orange color like we've got here. As far as the size goes, we're looking to select a piece that's got about a hook gap to a hook gap and a half or so in length there. And then what I like to do before I tie it on is strip a little bit off of the stem so that we've got a good spot to tie in. So we're going to go ahead and do just that. A few good solid wraps there. Alright. Just trim off our little excess piece. Okay, now in order to get a good flowing shape along the body of our Prince Nymph, I'm going to wet my fingers and stroke back the feathers along the stem there so that we get them kind of going in that right direction. I'm going to take my hackle pliers, pop those up on the tip there, and just start wrapping those around and then kind of bringing back those pieces of the feathers to give it that good flowing shape. Alright, that should be good. So now I'm just going to tie off what was left there. And then just trim our little excess hackle piece. Now we're ready for our last tying step. For the final step in our Prince Nymph, we're going to select another two pieces of Goose Biots, this time in a white color. So we've got those selected. We're going to set them up in a little bit of that kind of scissored cross sort of pattern, just like the tail on our Prince Nymph, and measure them to the length just from where they meet behind the bead head to where the brown Goose Biot tail starts. So now that we've got that, we're just going to lay those up on the top, hold those down with the index finger, and then simply tie those in. Alright, now that we've done that, I'm going to bring back the excess from those Goose Biots, give those a little bit of a trim up, and just take our thread here and kind of clean that piece up a little bit there.